Look, I know it's early in the month, but I've been book shopping again, and I want to share them with you. Welcome to the March Book Haul. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads. My name is Dave. Welcome back to another video. How are we all? I've just noticed this huge gap. Look at that. That's massive. I've reorganised these shelves, so I've tried to introduce some sort of filing system. I'll get onto what this video is about in a moment, but I've just noticed this huge gap. Anyway, so I've reorganised some shelving in here. So I've got hardbacks at the bottom and paperbacks up and going up and up and up, and trade paperbacks right at the top. I don't think I've got the shelving spacing right, because when I'm filming at this angle, this gap looks huge. Look at that. I'll have to rectify that at some point, but not for now. Now, what we're doing is a book haul. I know it's early in the month, but I've already been book shopping, and a couple of these are a bit of a book haul hangover from last month, because I only did one book haul last month, because it was a short month and we was up in Yorkshire, so only one book haul last month. So I've got a few from Feb and I've got a few from March. So these are going to be a mixture of new and second hand from charity shops and a nice little National Trust second hand bookshop that I discovered at the weekend. So let's get on with the books. So the first one I've got is, I haven't heard of this author. This is Dermot Healy, and this is a book called Long Time No See. It's published by Faber. It's a beautiful cover. It's trade paperback. An extraordinary maze of a novel. Oh, a novel? So, the return after an 11-year absence of one of the most celebrated contemporary Irish novelists. I've read a lot of Irish novelists the last couple of years, and I might go back on Goodreads just to figure out how many. Long Time No See introduces us to the unforgettable world of Mr. Syke in the isolated coastal townland of Ballintra in the northwest of Ireland. Recent school leaver, occasional worker, full-time companion and Malibu provider to Uncle Joe and his friend the Blackbird. Syke is a boy on the cusp of adulthood, undone by a recent traumatic event. Hanging out with men some 50 years plus his senior proves hazardous for Mr. Syke when the appearance of a bullet hole in Uncle Joe's window draws him into a series of misadventures which unsettle and bemuse. Perhaps the Blackbird is losing it, or perhaps the General has decided to act on a decades-old grudge. Whichever way, as the paranoia grabs a creeping hold of Uncle Jojo, his fragile world threatens to collapse, and it is Mr. Syke who must digest this and acknowledge the new world taking shape in the old. A novel about community, family, love and bonds across generations. Long Time No See is one of the most significant novels to come out of Ireland in this new century. An epic in miniature. Sounds really, really good. The next one we've got is a very famous book, a vintage Red Spine edition of Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. Now, I've never read Cider with Rosie, although it's an extremely popular book. Cider with Rosie is a wonderfully vivid memoir of childhood in a remote Cotswold village, a village before electricity and cars, a timeless place on the edge of change. Growing up amongst the fields and woods and characters of the place, Laurie Lee depicts a world that is both immediate and real and belongs to a now distant past. So always wanted to read Cider with Rosie, never got round to it, so now I own a physical copy. It's the perfect opportunity. The next one is a brand new book. I bought this in Waterstones in Trafalgar Square on a recent trip with Vicky to see the National Gallery. So I'll show you what else I bought in a moment, but I bought Susan Hill's new paperback. I am on a bit of a Susan Hill fest at the moment. I am reading a lot of Susan Hill, and I'm reading this one at the moment, and it's really, really good. It's about a girl called Olive Piper. Everyone likes Olive Piper, a happy, open-hearted child growing up in the 1950s. Her life is contented. When her passion for reading gets her into university, she feels sure the world is waiting for her. But then she makes a mistake, the kind any of us could make, and faces an impossible choice. It's really, really good. I'm about a third of the way in, really enjoying it. Another cracker from Susan Hill. The next couple of books I got from a friend, and hopefully someone that is very familiar to you. For those that subscribe to the channel, Charles Heathcote. Charlie is a writer as well as a brilliant booktuber, and Charlie's written two books. The first of which is Our Doris, and the second of which is Indisputably Doris. Now Charlie very kindly sent these to me, and he's also very kindly signed both copies of them for me as well. So really looking forward to getting into these. These are just my sort of thing, I think. So I am really looking forward to it. Hopefully I'll be getting to these very soon. So thank you, Charlie, for these. And I shall also link Charles's channel down below. I have talked about him before. He's starting to be watched now by more people, which is brilliant because he's a very entertaining guy, and I really love his channel. The second couple of books I got in another branch of Waterstones in Bluewater over the weekend, and that is a signed copy of Helen Callahan's new book, Everything Is Lies. Helen Callahan is the author of Dear Amy, so I was very pleased to pick this up. I didn't actually see this. Vicky saw this and thought it was my kind of thing. So no one is who you think they are. Sophia's parents lead quiet, ordinary lives. At least that is what she always believed. Everyone has secrets. Until the day she arrives at her childhood home to find a house ringing with silence. Her mother hanging from a tree, her father lying in a pool of his own blood near to death. The police are convinced it is an attempted murder-suicide, but Sophia is sure that the woman who brought her up isn't a killer. With her father in a coma, it's up to Sophia to clear her mother's name. To do this, she needs to delve deep into her family's past, a past full of dark secrets she never suspected were there. Sounds absolutely fantastic. And the second one is a 20th anniversary edition of Sarah Waters' Tipping the Velvet. This is a gorgeous new cloth bound, and I have featured this on my 6 new book series. This is a gorgeous, is it cloth bound? No, it's not cloth bound, but it's a gorgeous binding of Sarah Waters' classic novel, Tipping the Velvet, which I haven't read. I've got a lot of Sarah Waters. You can see behind me here I have some Sarah Waters, and I've got some Sarah Waters up there. I think the only novel now that I don't own of Sarah Waters is Affinity, but she's a brilliant novelist, and I've seen a couple of people read this quite recently, not especially in this edition, but it's just too gorgeous to pass up. So Sarah Waters, Tipping the Velvet. The next books I've got are so this is one from Claire Loudon, Left of the Bang. This was published by Fourth Estate. These are, from now on, I think these are all charity shop books now from now on. So Claire Loudon, Left of the Bang, published by Fourth Estate. For failing concert pianist Tasmin Jarvis, the pressure is mounting. She thought she was happy with her adoring schoolteacher boyfriend Callum, but when Chris comes into their lives, that starts to change. In a few months, Chris will be gone, leaving for his first tour of Afghanistan. Nothing seems to be working out the way Tamsin wants it to. In fact, she's not even sure it's what she wants. With sharp, satirical humour, consummate social observation, extreme sexual honesty and great empathy, Claire Loudon has captured the foibles, hopes and difficulties that characterise a strata of young Londoners today. Left of the Bang is a Vanity Fair for our times, a funny, unflinching insider's view of the generation born in the 1980s. Really good. Even though I'm not a 1980s generation, I'm 1970s generation. But I think I'll still enjoy it. So the next one is, this is published by Picador, Not Working by Lisa Owens. This I've never come across before. So this says, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and follow your dreams, but sometimes you quit your job only to realise you don't have any dreams, or that you don't know what they are, and your plans to run a marathon, finish Ulysses and discover your true vocation have dissolved into whole days spent entering competitions on the internet. And you had wine for dinner again, and your mother won't take your calls, and you know you can't work out how everyone else seems to know exactly what they're doing with their lives. That again just seems brilliant. I love books about social observation. The next one I've got is, this is by Charles Fraser, who wrote Cold Mountain. This is a book called Nightwoods, and it's published by Scepter. And the other one I've got here is John McGavin, Collected Stories. These are published by Faber. I think he's another Irish writer. This remarkable volume brings together all of the short fiction of John McGarren, published during his lifetime. McGarren has long been recognised as a master of the short story. The Collected Stories confirms his reputation as one of Ireland's greatest writers. So another Irish writer that I discovered, not so much recently, but at the back end of last year, is William Trevor, and I'm very keen to get hold of some more writings from William Trevor. I've got The Story of Lucy Galt on the shelves to read, but I read Love and Summer last year, which was very good. Let me just show you this mug I bought. So we went to the Red House recently, where I've got some books here that I picked up from the Red House. The Red House was the former home of the William Morris, one of the greatest figures in the arts and crafts movement. I'm sure you've heard of him. And he's very famous for his wallpaper designs and his wallpaper prints. And I picked this up. Look at this. This is a William Morris mug. This design, for those of you that are interested, is called the Strawberry Thief, and it's available in red as well, which I might get. I've raised my mug game significantly over the last couple of weeks, and this is just a pleasure to drink tea out of, even though it's sadly empty at the moment. Right, a few more books to go through. So we've got a nice sort of faux leather bound edition of Somerset Maugham of Human Bondage, which I've always wanted to read, but again never got round to it. Jim Crace. Hear lots of good things about Jim Crace. This is called Being Dead, winner of the National Book Critics Circle Award. An extraordinarily moving love story. A couple lie naked in the dunes at Baritone Bay, at a spot where almost 30 years ago before they had first had sex as students. Nostalgia has sent Celise and Joseph back the singing stretch of coast, but in the seeming calm of the afternoon they meet a brutal and unexpected fate, one which will steal their bodies but not their love, and certainly not their story. I think that's going to move straight to the top of the TBR. That sounds brilliant. Next we have Tessa Hadley, The London Train. This was published by Vintage. This seems really good. Two lives stretched between two cities, two stories bound by the London train. Paul sets out in search of his eldest daughter, Pia, who has gone missing somewhere in London. At first, he thinks he wants to rescue her, but as time passes, he is drawn deep into the excitements of the capital and a life lived in jeopardy. He forgets his own way home. In the opposite direction, Cora is moving back to Cardiff, to the house she inherited from her parents. She is escaping her marriage and the disappointments of her London life. And then she receives a telephone call to say that her husband has disappeared. The London Train. And another one I got here is The Vanishing by Sophia Tobin. This is published by Simon & Schuster. This sounds really good. A story of intrigue and revenge. On top of the Yorkshire moors, in an isolated spot carved out of the barren landscape, lies White Windows, a house of shadows and secrets. Here lies Marcus Twentyman, a hard-drinking but sensitive man, and his sister Hester. When Annalie, a young girl who has fled her home in London, finds herself at the remote house, engaged as the housekeeper to the Twentymans, she discovers all is not as it seems behind closed doors. Isolated and lonely, Annalie is increasingly drawn to her master, and as their relationship intensifies, she soon realises that her movements are being controlled and her life is no longer her own. Slowly she is drawn into a web of intrigue and darkness, and soon she must face her fears if she is to save herself. That sounds absolutely brilliant. So that's The Vanishing by Sophia Tobin, published by Simon & Schuster. That brings us to the end of this book haul. So thank you for watching. I'll be back on Sunday with another video. Whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books, and I'll see you back here on Sunday for another BookTube video, when we should be talking about the Women's Book Prize for Fiction, the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, which is due out on Thursday. In fact, it's due out tomorrow night at midnight as you're watching this video. So I'll see you Sunday. Take care. Bye bye.